Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Weatherboys podcast. We have a very exciting guest today. We've been pumped to talk to this guy for a while.
I feel a little nervous around him.
I know.
It's been so long.
Because, you will feel that way around a legend.
For sure. Yes.
There he is. Before we bring him on, how you feling?
Very sore. I never know when we record these and when they're going to air. What can I talk about? Can I talk about the thing that we did yesterday?
Please.
I mean, we went with the dunking team, the Pistons extreme team. Those guys who spring off the trampolines and they dunk thunderously. And then they gave us a shot. They let us try it. And I thought, like, you just jump off a trampoline and you dunk a ball. And I guess it is that simple, but my body is wrecked, sir.
I don't know if I've ever been this sore after a Weatherboy shoot. And we've done some pretty crazy stuff.
During a Weatherboy shoot as well.
Yeah, this one I did tap out. I mean, you wouldn't let me tap out.
Yeah,
I tried to tap out.
A few times.
Yeah.
And a little baby.
So, all right. So Alan has this thing where when I try to tap out, instead of just letting me do it, he will shame me with the people that we are there shooting with.
Sure.
So he went up to the coach and he was like, "Hey, coach, do you guys, you let people quit on your team? You got a team of quitters?" And I was like, "God dang it, man. I'm exhausted. I'm tired. I've been jumping off a trampoline and falling on my face for 2 hours. I just want to be done." And
well, we weren't done. We had a 3 p.m. out time, and it was not 3 p.m.
I'm actually grateful that you didn't let me quit.
Yes. And I feel nervous when I do that because yesterday I could see like the sadness in your eyes. You were tired and you were like, "Dude, I can't," because I want you to do that because I believe that you could do the thing that you're trying to do. But you really did not believe that you could in that moment. And I almost believed your disbelief.
Yeah. Well, I started getting physically tired.
For sure. Yes.
You don't realize how much energy it takes when you're jumping on a trampoline. Mm-hmm. I mean, it wears you out fast. And then when you're failing at the thing you're trying to do, you were
failing. In a very funny fashion, though. It was good.
And then
you got it.
Oh, I was going to just say.
Oh, did you get it? I don't know. Who knows what happens?
I was right about to say the question of whether or not I did it.
I don't know. I'm not. Yeah, wait, did you? I don't remember.
Yeah, I did at the end. Because
that's good.
You wouldn't let me quit.
Yeah.
We had some success. Mm-hmm. All right. This is exciting. Our guest today, Alan Lee. Fox 2 broadcast legend Alan Lee joining us. Alan is a seasoned journalist with over 30 years of experience, anchored the Fox 2 morning show for years here in Detroit. He was here when I started. He was here when Alan started. Purdue University graduate, native of Chicago's Hyde Park. He transitioned from news in his broadcasting career to being an author of a heck of a book, Sandstorm. We're going to talk to him a little bit about that. And then his big move away and his big move home. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Alan Lee.
And are we going to disrespect the man and not mention his second book?
Yeah,
Derek?
That's right.
Ashes to Ashes.
Thank you very
much.
much.
Yeah, right.
Thank you. That's right.
Yeah, fantastic.
At home working on the third.
Oh, do we know the do we know the name?
Have not given it a name yet.
Okay.
No.
Is it Alex?
Yeah,
right. That's his name, right?
Yeah, same character.
Same character.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
All the research I did online about the books, everybody talks about your character development.
Yes.
Is that like, when you write a book, do you consciously try to do that, or does it just come to good authors?
Good authors. Wow.
We butter you up here on the Weatherboys podcast. Yeah.
I think it just kind of comes. You know, you start to write, you have, I think, the basis of somebody in mind and how you want the character to go. And then as you progress, I think that person reacts to situations around them, how people react to your character, and just the different places you want it to go. It's not really based on any one particular person. I think the interesting thing was that when Sandstorm got published, I remember I got an email from a guy that was from Washington, D.C. He owned a think tank, and he had a government contract, so he works with the government. And in his email, and he goes, "I just want to reach out." And he goes, "Who is your character based on?" And I go, "Oh, nobody. I just kind of made it up in the back of my mind. You know, I just made up a character." And he goes, "That's interesting." He goes, "I have someone that I can't wait to get your book to because he's going to find this quite humorous." And he goes, "I can't get it to him right now because he's unattainable. We can't reach out to him right now. But the moment we are able to get him this book, we're going to give it to him. He's going to get a big laugh at it." So I kept going, "So you mean to tell me somewhere out there is an ex-pro football player who is now a spy?"
Yeah.
And as he's kind of goes, he's going to just get a big kick.
He's like, wait, I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
Right.
You're like, whoa.
Right. So I said, oh, wow, really?
Like they retired in the 90s and now they're out there. I'm trying to think of who this could be.
Wow.
I mean, is there a higher compliment? I mean, that's fantastic.
Yeah, that was great.
That's great. They're, like these books, like they're entertaining, but the depth of knowledge that you have to have.
Yeah.
Like that's some research, my man.
It is. It's a tremendous amount of research of stuff that I have.
That's got to be tedious at a certain level, or no?
It's extremely tedious at times. It kind of holds you up when you're writing sometimes because you're not really making up your own. You're making up some things, but it's not like Harry Potter where you can just free license to create anything you want to do.
You're like, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You know what? We'll just have him do a spell. It's a spell.
Right.
Yeah.
So because you'll have people come back at you and go, that can't happen. And the cool thing is, I even actually got to contact the CIA because I was kind of curious about something. This was in Ashes to Ashes.
Yeah.
And they have a department where they work with journalists, and they have a department where they work with authors. And I got connected to them, and I had this woman on the phone, and I go, do you guys sort of actually allow your employees to have social media accounts and things like that? And she goes, yeah, as long as they don't disclose where they work or who they or what they're doing, we don't clamp down on that so much. It's just as long as they, understand where they work. And I said, great, that's all I need to know. And so, so I gave me the license to create another facet of a particular character.
Sure.
So.
Do you do all the research before you even start writing?
I do the majority of it. There are times when you get stuck and you have to go back and do a little research and stop for a minute just to either you want to fine tune something or you want to learn a little bit more about something to go a little bit more in depth.
I bet you that sucks, right? Like if you're on a roll and you're like, crap.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. But you know what? One of the greatest inventions in the world for me is Google Maps.
Yeah.
Because you can now walk down certain streets anywhere in the world pretty much and you feel like you're there. So you can
you dropped the little person, you mean, like in yeah.
You can walk down that particular street.
Oh, it's so smart.
You feel like you're there, and you can observe everything. And then what I do is because you know how Google Maps is, it could be there 1 year,
right? I was going to say,
and not there the next.
You reference a clock on the corner of East and Third, and then they're like, "Dude, that clock was ripped down in 2015."
Right? Or a restaurant, and you go back and you go, "Oh, it's still there. Great. I'll write about this, or I'll write about this club. It's still there. Cool."
I have to believe, I was thinking about this the other day with actors, but it's true with authors as well. I mean, you guys are outside of the expertise in the field itself. I'm like, is there anybody more of an expert in a certain thing than an author or an actor? Because you need to you need to really dive into it and know it all.
Yeah, other than the people probably that, you're basing it on.
Right.
Yeah. In fact, when I worked in Washington, D.C., what I used to enjoy, I got into it even back then, was I asked our station, I want to know if I can be like the intelligence beat reporter. If something ever goes down, I want to be the one to go cover it. And they go like, yeah, nobody else has asked that. They go,
oh, yes, sucker.
All right, they go, most of the people kind of think that stuff's too complex. So yeah, if you want to cover that. So there was a instance where this one woman, she was a CIA operative, and she was taking the CIA, she was suing them for discrimination on her behalf, and basically, and also all the women. And it was in federal court in Virginia, and we all got to go there, and I got to know some of it was great because you knew that everybody that was in attendance, especially all the women, are actual CIA operatives.
Yeah.
And they were all kind of like, just don't kind of take our photo. And I mean, we got in the court, and it was so secretive of the person that was involved. They actually had a thing over their heads to the point where you couldn't identify who they were.
No way.
And then there were certain other parts where they had to bring somebody else in, and they go like, okay, we have to clear the courtroom because this is getting to be extremely sensitive, what we're about to talk about. So you had to go outside. You had to wait until you can come back into the courtroom.
Were you like, where did you want to be an author then? And were you already like thinking like, oh, this could, jot notes?
I wanted to be an author since I was in college.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that was always, to me, the back of my mind to go. Because I read those books when I was a kid. I had two older brothers. They were 10 and 9 years older than me. So they always had like the James Bond books at home.
Sure.
I was reading stuff way before I should have been reading it. And then you get to certain scenes of those books, like, oh, yeah, feed me more.
I'm going to reread that one.
Yeah, Alan had a couple of magazines like that, too.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, but ever since I was a kid, I actually was intrigued by writing spy stories.
it's got to be different to read them now, right? I mean, can you even read for pleasure, or are you always analyzing?
Yes, but I think you've narrowed it down to people that you really enjoy and respect.
Sure.
Writing more than anything else. When I worked in the Virgin Islands, everybody knew that I loved writing, and I was a big Robert Ludlum fan because I would always have a Ludlum novel on my desk, even while I was doing my other work. And one guy came up to me, he goes, he comes and visits the island. I go, who? It was Robert Ludlum. He comes like once or twice a year. And he goes, dude, really? And he goes, well, I can see if he'll agree to an interview. I go, really? And he goes, yeah, I know the people that know Robert. So months passed, and he finally came to me, and he said he'll do it. And I go, who would do what? I guess we forgot. Right?
Yeah.
I go, Robert Ludlum. He says, if you meet him out at this resort the day after tomorrow, come to the resort, and he'll be glad to talk to you. So we did it, and I met him, and his only criteria was just don't print it until after I leave. Me and my family leave because we don't want people to bother us or know that we're here. Mm-hmm. And funny thing was, he was writing his next novel, and he was doing it like longhand in a notebook. And he left. He goes, "You want something to drink?" And I go, "Sure." And he left that notebook on the table, and I'm sitting there trying to read to see, what is that book? What's he writing? But yeah, that was really cool. It was a great. And then after it published, about a month later, he sent me the nicest postcard saying, "Really enjoyed the article. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure meeting you. All the best in your own writing." And I have that framed at home above my desk.
Yeah, that's fantastic. He wrote it. He wrote it out. He wrote it out. Now, are you doing that? How are you writing this next one?
I definitely do it on the computer.
Yeah, for sure.
I take research notes a lot, sometimes to write it out, things like that. But most of the stuff, I'll put it on the computer.
I can't even imagine, though, even with the technology we have now, the depth of your books. I would get so lost. I mean, you got to be creative, obviously. You got to have the dedication to research it, but you got to be organized, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'd get lost in that thing. Is this just on Microsoft Word?
Yeah, for sure. I try not to go out of turn in chapters. That to me would really get confused. If I did chapter 1 and next thing I go I think I'll start writing chapter 10.
So it is.
I have no idea how I can get to chapter 10 unless I get one through.
Okay.
I have this little hiccup. Everybody talks about writer's block.
Yeah.
I can't start a book unless I get that first couple of paragraphs done or the opening chapter. Everything else is a blur until I go I'll have writer's block at the beginning. I'm like, okay, that doesn't work. I don't like that beginning. Not going to work for me. But once you get that done. And the biggest hurdle, everybody says, I don't know how you do it. It's really hard to write a book. It is hard. But I think when you get to the midway point, it's almost like running a race, I'd imagine, Alan. You should do a lot of this.
Sure.
It's almost like...
Don't compliment him. But he doesn't need that.
Fresh off of 5K.
Yeah.
Just now.
But it's one of those things where okay, I'm there now. I'm at that point.
Yeah.
There's no sense in stopping.
Sure.
I might as well just keep going no matter how hard or how tough this is.
Does the first 3 paragraphs of a book, is that the most important? Because you got to hook them, right?
Right, exactly. For me, it is. It's got to hook me, too.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. If I'm not intrigued by the first, I don't expect you will be either. So the one thing is people go, who do you write for? I kind of write for myself. Because if it's not interesting to me, I can't imagine it being interesting for someone else. So I have to be, because that's the reason I even read certain books. I read the books, yeah, great, but I'm reading it because I enjoy it. So I almost kind of feel like, he wrote this book with me in mind because I enjoy it. So when I write a book, if it doesn't at least please me, then I can't get past it. And the funny thing is, my wife is like my first line of editor. Oh my gosh.
Oh God.
Does she love this or does she hate this, or is it both, depending on the day?
She does it begrudgingly.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
But it's begrudgingly, but it's also a little bit of pleasure for her. Because I remember the first time she started making edits on my manuscript. I had never seen so much red and stuff crossed out. But the worst part about my wife is that she doesn't just make edits or make suggestions. Mm-hmm. She has comments. Oh, come on. Or you're better than this, or or this doesn't make sense at all. I'm like, okay. So I remember one time I said, you know what? I appreciate the edits. The little side notes,
right.
I could do without.
Yeah. See, now we have only good things to say about your wife. For viewers listening, she's our boss.
Sure. Sean, yeah, there is no worst part to Sean.
For listeners, she's my boss too.
Right. I get what you're saying though about wives. They tend to have they're the best and the worst.
Right. He was about to say it, wasn't it?
Because my wife does that when I show her one of our pieces.
Yeah.
She is the first one to go, a little long.
Yeah.
And you're like, anything good to say? I would cut that at the beginning. It starts really slow.
Yeah.
Try again.
Yeah.
And you're like, come on, man. Like the wives, but that's why we love them.
Yeah, I've heard about them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I had one once.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
You know, like, do you read the whole thing when you're done?
Unfortunately, you have to. And I say unfortunately because once you're done, you're kind of like just happy to put it aside for a second. And then you'll want to go back and reread it at least again because you have to make edits no matter what.
Right.
You have to go back and it's like your first run through. Okay, I can cut that out. That's long, you know, because then once you let it sit for a second, you go back and you kind of read it a little bit with fresh eyes. And then you start making it because you don't want it to be too long.
Right.
That's another thing that's an issue. But you want it to make sense. You want it to flow as best it can. So you have to make a whole bunch of edits. So you read it. But then by the time it gets to the publisher, and the publisher can send back notes and things of that nature, you've read that same manuscript about 13, 14 times. You've gone through it. By that time, you're like, I can't stand him.
Yeah.
I hate his book. Right, yeah.
I think I'll just kill him right
Sure.
here.
Like, can it be entertaining to you anymore at that point? You know what I mean? I mean,
there are certain only probably sections that are more entertaining to me, but the whole book after a while, after you've done it like 13, 14 times, for me at least, it's kind of like, okay, you know what? Please let this be the final edit that they are okay with, and you know, because I'm not changing this or not changing that, and it's like, oh my god.
We get this question sometimes in news where people say, like, do your bosses tell you what to say or tell you what to do? Are you trying to push? Do you get any of that from book publishers if you're writing something about a certain I don't know, product or?
Here's the funny thing, and I would say this is a different thing from. I would never have expected this to be a suggestion that someone said. My agent at the time, my literary agent at the time, says, I'm really close on selling your manuscript. She goes, the issue that I'm hearing back right now is that there's no sex scene between Alex and Nora.
I was thinking the same thing.
And I was like, but the whole my perspective was, yeah, there wouldn't be because there's tension between them, and you have to understand where they're at now in their lives. And I go, I just didn't think it made sense. She goes, no, the editors at the publishing house need a sex scene.
Have you heard of 50 Shades of Grey?
Make sense.
But it was coming. Here I was, a guy. I think most people would think, guy's just going to put sex in here all day long. You know, this is his fantasy.
Yep. You sure?
And I didn't. And I said, well, I don't want to put it in there. And I'm like, all right. Now that's the pressure though, because I did put it in there. I did have it. And she goes, and I sent it back to her. And she called me a week later. Good, we got a book deal. I was like, are you kidding me? So the only thing that's holding this up was a sex scene.
Sex sells, baby.
Yeah.
But here's the worst part about that. If you are married, I have to write this sex scene. And I, again, have to let my wife sort of edit this.
Yeah.
And I'm saying to myself, oh, this is pressure. Because you're like, did I go too far
Exactly.
here? Or did I?
Write what you know, Alan.
Right. Where did you learn this from?
Right.
What are we?
Did I... Am I too descriptive here?
Oh, yeah.
So that was a tricky one for me. Like, I guess I have to run this by her too.
And then you have kids. They read your books.
Well, my oldest son at the time, he got the book. He was like, yeah, thanks.
Yeah, right.
I still don't think my oldest son has probably read it.
You're like, it's your dad's name on the cover.
Yeah.
He's I'm busy.
Yeah. It's just like my oldest son. My younger son was kind of like too young to sort of know he knew I was on TV at the time, but my older son kind of grew up with it. So after a while, he was kind of like, yeah, it's just
for sure.
That's my dad.
Let's talk about the TV thing, right? Can we?
One more. Because about the rejection. Because she said she's trying to sell your manuscript. Yeah. I mean, in a job like that, you must be rejected all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I mean, was that hard at first? Is it hard now? Do you?
The interesting thing about that is that you kind of know when you're getting close to maybe making a deal. Because initially there are some rejections go, just not for me.
Okay.
You know, thanks for letting us see this. Not for me. You know, and these are like publishing houses at this point because I had gotten an agent, and she would send me along. This is what they're saying, and this and that. And then you knew you were close because there were a lot of other people who would actually even give you notes. Like, you know what, if this was in this or this hook, and then one book publisher goes, I'm probably going to regret this.
Okay.
Really going to regret this. And he goes, I'm struggling with this. And he goes, but if it wasn't for the fact that I already had a bunch of authors now already in-house we made deals with, he goes, but I have a feeling that this is really going to be popular and work. And he goes, so regretfully, I'm saying no. But he goes, I know I'm going to kick myself later.
Yeah.
So then you kind of know you're close. You know, you're like, all right, enough people are starting to read this to go, oh, there's something here.
But what about your first book before you'd ever really done it? You know, you had to have had confidence that you could do it. But I mean, was there ever a point after a couple of rejections, which I assume you had, that you were like, okay, maybe.
You just have to keep going because if you invest that much time in something, you got to keep going. You know, and there are people who in this business who I felt fortunate because, you know, I'd got it like on my first pass and within months, you know.
Okay.
But there are people who've been in this for years and still get rejected and still keep hanging in there. And you hear stories like, it took me 5 years to get published, you know, by a traditional publishing house. So, but you just have to hang. If you believe in it and you wrote all that work, it'd be kind of like wasting months of like,
for sure.
What did I just waste a year for? You know?
Right.
Yeah. And it was tough because working, I obviously would get done with the morning show here. I'd go home, let the dogs out, sit down, do some. I'm not a morning person, which is kind of a weird thing. I really, when we get into news, I'll tell you a funny Amy Andrews story about that. I'm not a morning person, early morning person. So I would do more research in the afternoon, and I would start writing sometimes like at 5 o'clock at night and go until like bedtime because I work better in the evenings.
It's so funny how certain people, my wife is like that too. Which it drives me nuts, by the way, because she will get her stride at like 4:30 p.m. and then she'll want to work till 7. And I'm like,
there's nothing going on with your kids at that time.
Yeah, I'm like, can't you get hot at like 10:30 in the morning and start pumping out this work? But it's when inspiration hits, you got to run with it.
Right, you got to run with it, right? And you know kind of know your body clock. You know when you're most creative. You know when you think better about certain things, and so I just kind of got that down to that point.
You talked about, so the writing was your passion in college, you said, but you went into news. I mean, in college, you were doing news-related things, right?
No, I was doing sports in college.
Okay.
I was always doing sports until I was in Evansville, Indiana. I was a sports director, anchoring sports, did it great, covered all the sports in the world, and then I was
bustling sports scene in Evansville, Indiana.
Yeah. Yes. The Kevra family was nice enough to invite me over for St. Patrick's Day get together.
I don't think I told you this.
Wait, you got the invite?
Yeah.
I didn't get an invite.
Well,
yeah, I've hung out with Alan more on weekends this year than with you.
Well, fantastic. I mean, did I change my number?
But
it's the same one.
But let me qualify that so you won't feel so bad.
Too late.
Derek didn't invite me either.
Yeah,
it was
fair.
his sister.
Yeah.
Oh.
So.
Okay. Well, she doesn't like me. That makes sense.
Right.
Actually, my sisters have a gigantic crush.
Yeah, we're pals.
Yeah.
Euchre friends. That's fantastic. Yeah, that's great. This was when
they're neighbors. They're neighbors.
St. Patrick's Day?
Yeah. Like 3 days ago.
Yeah.
That's great.
Right. So Derek and I were talking then. It was at that point in my career where I was presented with a crazy bunch of options at the same time. I could keep doing sports because there was a sports station in Austin, Texas that wanted to hire me. And I was like, oh, great. And she was the first one to go, yeah, I want you to come down here and be our sports director. And I go, great, that's fantastic. I accept. I mean, it sounds great. When do you want me to fly down? She goes, no need. She just said, I go, what do you mean no need? I mean, I got to, don't you want to know?
Sure.
She goes, I've seen your tapes. I love you. Job's yours.
It was back in the day. Not like nowadays, everything's on YouTube. You send your link.
Right.
Yeah, but do you remember, that was you too, right? When you started in this business, you actually had to send tapes or DVDs?
Yeah, I remember we had DVD. Yeah, for sure.
Right. And the second thing, at the same time, I got offered to stay in my current job because I was going to be asked to be the analyst for Evansville basketball. So on the radio.
Oh, okay.
I was like, well, John, that's a dream job.
Absolutely.
I want to do that for sure. And then at the same time, WNBC and Washington, D.C.
Sure.
called and said, we want you to come anchor the morning show. And I was like, oh, this is okay. But that was the news.
Yeah.
Because they had a guy named, I don't know if you even remember, George Michael did sports. It was George Michael's sports machine back in the day. This is way before we had satellite. George Michael was the biggest
He was the guy
going. Huh? He had every station in America almost subscribing to the George Michael sports machine. Go, no, you're not going to come do sports. We got George Michael for that. We want you to do news. And I was like, well, I've never done news. They go like, we've seen your personality. We know you can handle it. We want you to do news. So I was like, I'm kind of torn. So I had to call the ABC person back in Austin.
Sure.
Like, I kind of got this ridiculous job offer. He goes, but I don't want to leave sports. And she goes, what is it? She goes, it's the anchor of the morning news in Washington, D.C. for the NBC O&O, which for those of us people out there, O&O is owned and operated by the network. So it's the big deal. It's the big deal. It's the big deal. And she goes, oh, you have no choice. She goes, I'm not going to even let you take this
She
job
sent
now.
you away?
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic.
You're fired from this job.
She goes, you have to go to Washington, D.C. You can't pass that up.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, but it gets me out of sports. She goes, you'll be fine.
And you were fine.
I went to Washington, D.C. Yeah, it was fine. But even in the back of my mind, I always miss sports.
Yeah.
So.
But then from D.C., you didn't go to another sports network. You stayed in local news doing morning news.
In D.C., and then I came here.
Right.
Yeah.
So you
turned Fox down at first, but yeah, I came here.
Did you?
Yeah, they wanted me to do weekends. And I said, guys, I'm not interested in leaving Washington, D.C. to come to Detroit to do weekends. So,
we have that in common, you and me.
And I said, no, but thanks. Mm-hmm. And then about a few months later, something happened with one of the employees here. And I called back and go, just curious, I noticed you have a weekday job open now. And the guy goes, really, you're still interested? I go, yeah, well, what are you talking about money-wise?
Yeah.
He goes, oh, okay, I'll do it. I'll come.
Nice.
So,
now, when you were in D.C., if I remember correctly, back in the day, those were some of those pickup basketball games with some interesting folks.
Yeah, those were some great games. We had Eric, what is Eric's name? He worked for Eric, oh my gosh, I can't remember. He became the chief litigator for the Justice Department. Oh gosh, what is his name now? Eric
Spolstra.
No. Anyway, I will look his name up and I'll remember it later. Eric Holder. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So we're on this basketball league, and one of our guys is playing this. He goes, we got this other guy going to play in a couple. We've already played like 6 games or something. I go, great. And he goes, he's a big guy, too. He's got some height. Great, we need some height. So Eric, and he goes, he just pulled me aside. He goes, now, I got to tell you, this guy is on his way to being a big, big deal in Washington, D.C. I go, okay,
cool, yeah, whatever.
I go like, what's his name? Eric Holder. I go, he's going to be like, first of all, he's going to be like probably one of the District of Columbia's biggest litigator, and he's going to in charge. I go, great, but then he wound up being Obama's.
Yeah.
So we're playing basketball. I was a good basketball player, and so we're playing on the team, and Eric kept shooting jump shots for a while, and I said, Eric, pulled him aside. I didn't know him, but obviously, Eric, too. I kind of need you to go inside. I need you down low. We got enough jump shooters.
Yeah.
And Eric goes, dude, just give me the ball. Eric, I need you to go down. I'm the point guard. I need you to go down.
I'm the point guard. Pulling rank.
You have to listen to me.
Yeah.
I have the ball in my hands. Bring it up. I need you to go down low. So Eric was open a couple of times. I refused to pass the ball. I finally said, you get down low. I'll give you the ball. I go, I don't mind you shooting the jump shot every now and then. I need you down low.
Yeah, I love that. I love the idea of a pickup game. You know what I mean? Like, those are so haphazard. Dudes are chucking threes from the half-court line, especially nowadays, post-Steph Curry.
Yeah.
He's giving us all unwarranted confidence.
Exactly. But no, so we had some great games, though. Some really good games.
You were there for how many years?
DC, I was over there for a little bit more than 3.
Okay.
So, yeah. That's when I finally decided to come to Detroit. So.
And Detroit didn't have any particular hold to you because you're a Chicago native.
Right.
So maybe was the goal ever to get back to Chicago?
Yeah. But I think that, people who were blocking that after a while because they were like, you're too valuable to us here.
Yeah,
so
I believe that.
We're not going to. I remember a sports shop came open in L.A. It was a weekend sports shop. And our general manager at the time goes, what do you want to go there for? I go like, dude, it's back in sports and it's in L.A. And he goes, yeah, but you're going to make less money. I go like, yeah, but look at the opportunity to go do sports in L.A. And he goes, I don't know about that. I'm not going to. And so I kind of knew from that point on. seems like I'm getting blocked from taking a bunch of jobs within the corporation here.
Get some golden handcuffs.
Yeah.
Just kind of stuck.
Yeah. So it's and I actually got the opportunity to be asked to do sports here, but my and I'm going to admit this, and I think there's no secret to most people who producers and everybody who did our morning show. I'm not a hockey fan.
You couldn't even fake it, huh?
I could fake it very well because we'd have a bunch of the Red Wings on the show and we talk hockey, and they go like, "That's a heck of an interview." And I go like, "And I thought you hated hockey." And I go like, "It's not my favorite."
Sure.
And I go, "I could never tell." I go, "Well, that's the brilliance of journalism."
Right. For sure. Yeah.
But because they came to me and I said, "You know what? I'd love to be do sports here, but I go, here's one problem. I don't like hockey, and in Detroit, you got to cover the Red Wings.
It's hockey town."
But I told him, I said, at the time at our news report, I said, but you know what? When I worked in D.C., there was a guy that I don't really actually know him, but I heard him numerous times on the radio and on the air. His name is Dan Miller. You need to go seek out Dan Miller. I go, you'll think you'll be happy.
Wait, so we have you to thank for Dan Miller?
Well, no, you have Dan Miller to thank for Dan Miller because Dan Miller got Dan Miller the job. I really told our news director.
He gets credit, though.
Yeah.
I really told no, I don't.
It's a finder's fee.
I really told our director, you need to go talk and see this guy named Dan Miller. He's really good.
Does Dan know that story?
I think he does.
Dan's washed it from his memory.
It's
all me.
Right.
If we're breaking news here on the Weatherboys podcast, that's pretty good.
It's no breaking news. Dan deserves it.
Sure.
He's one of the nicest, most sweetest people you ever want to meet.
Yeah.
So happy for him and always has been happy.
We call him the anti-Derek.
Wow.
So how many years did you put in here? In
18.
18.
Yeah, 18 years.
And then why at the end?
Number one for 16 in a row,
Yeah.
baby.
Because of you?
With crazy numbers.
Yeah, for sure. No, I mean like literal domination, and we still benefit from that. Because we're creatures of habit.
I think obviously when we used to do those crazy snow days, especially schools.
Yeah.
I think one day I thought like this can't be right, and they go, we got a 15 share. I go, like, how is it possible?
Yep.
And they go, yeah, people. And the funny thing is, we met one of my wife's interns because she used to be a health producer here. And we were out. It was funny. I think it was one of those. I think it was like St. Patrick's Day or something. And one of my wife's interns had one of her friends with her. And you could just tell when somebody's like a little standoffish or a little shy or about, and I go, what's her deal? And my wife's intern started laughing. She goes, oh my God, she's so intimidated by your husband. I go, why? What? Why shouldn't she? Goes, you don't understand. When we were kids, we used to call your husband school closer. I go, what are you talking about? She goes, we all used to think your husband had the ability to close schools. So we would sit around the TV set and wait to hear our school close. And they go, yes, school closer. Just closed our school.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Not a bad reputation to have. It's going to make you very popular.
The way a child's mind works.
Right, exactly.
You said it, therefore you made it happen.
Right.
Can I share a story about your last day?
Yeah, go ahead.
Which probably means nothing. I mean, you probably don't remember it. Maybe you do. But I think about it all the time because it is the coolest thing that I think I've ever really witnessed. In this industry, or maybe every industry, I don't know, but definitely in this industry, sometimes we can think we're more important than we are.
Oh, yeah. Main character syndrome.
Yeah, there's an ego involved. I mean, Alan Longstreet, he's got
For sure.
I mean,
100%.
a huge ego.
Absolutely.
But when people,
No, he doesn't.
he truly doesn't. When people leave in this industry, it's usually this big hullabaloo.
Yeah.
And there's this really elaborate 5-minute farewell package with your highlights and your best, your best bits here and there.
I know where he's going with this.
And it was your last day.
Yeah.
I was working with you that day. I'd only been here for like 6 months.
Yeah.
And they said, Alan, do you want the farewell package? And you said no.
Yeah.
And then they said, well, can we say goodbye to you at the end of the show? And you said no. You said, I will finish the show, like the professional I am, and I will ride off into the sunset.
Yeah.
It's exactly how you did it. You did your last show as professional as can be.
Yeah.
And then you went off to retirement.
Well, see, the reason why that was is because they made the whole freaking morning show about me leaving too, though. So they were bringing Get Kim, who was I'm like, okay, who else?
I think the Pistons dancers were, or maybe the Pistons or the Lions dancers.
Yeah, here, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be a little embarrassing here.
Yeah, you just said, I don't want to say anything. I just want to ride off to the end. Ride off into the into retirement. It was cool. It was a really cool thing.
Well, thank you, Derek. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I agree. You were at the top of the mountain, like you said. 16 of the 18 years you were here. I mean, we were number one.
Yeah.
and it's a great gig. It's a great gig.
The worst part about that is when you see what happens to some people that you know at the other stations.
Yeah.
Because I know for a fact that a couple other people got let go because we were doing so well.
Sure.
And you hate that. You know, I mean, my goal, number one, though, was to always win.
Sure.
I mean, every day I was like, we're winning. I don't care what else happens. We're going to win. That's my goal. But when you see that happen at other stations where people, and I'm like, well, why did you do that? I mean, you have your own audience, and there's a reason why you have those people are popular. You're still getting numbers. Don't just
we're not like Anchorman with the trident. Meet each other in the back alley.
Oh, you guys don't do that?
No.
Because to some extent you're not going to be able to duplicate what we do anyway.
Right.
So
doesn't matter. The revolving door will not help you.
Yeah, and as you guys know, and you guys have this unique situation with the Weatherboys and everything else. It's not so, and we were talking about the same thing with the station in Los Angeles. In order for that to really work, you have to have a team that gets along and that is giving of each other.
Yes.
It does me no good to be the so-called lead or the star of this. If I'm the one getting everything, I have to make Derek Keverell look good.
Yes, you do.
I have to make Alan Longstreet look good.
Yeah.
I have to make everybody else on this show feel like they're a part of it and make them feel just as important as anything else. You know, that to me is the key to also sort of getting to a successful thing.
What's that saying? High tide raises all ships?
Yeah.
If we're all rising together, then we're going to keep winning.
Yeah. Lee Thomas paid me a great compliment one day on the air. We were all sitting around. We had before the discussion. And Lee had a funny line at the end of it. And Lee Thomas said during the commercial break, he goes, Alan Lee, I knew you were going to say something. What were you going to say? And he goes, come on, tell me. And I said it. And he goes, see, that was funnier. But you let me have that. And he goes, I appreciate that, man.
Yeah.
You know, and I go, well, Lee, it wasn't important for me to get that out. You were on a roll.
Sure.
It was your moment. You do it. You know, I never got, my point was, dude, you know how many days you got to anchor? I don't care.
It's a grind sometimes, right?
I don't care how many stories you get to read as opposed to how it all averages out.
Yeah, and especially in the morning. Should we circle back to the fact that you, morning anchor, you were not a morning person?
No. I was
how
not
did that come to be?
It was just, I went to D.C. to do morning.
Yeah.
So you just kind of like.
Just grin and bear it.
Got, right. So, but here, as you all know, the shows kept getting longer.
Oh, yeah.
Starting earlier.
Yep.
And longer and longer and longer.
It's wild to think about that. I mean, when you got here, how long was the morning show?
I think we went on from 6 to, or was it probably 5 to 9? It might have been that, or it might have been.
So 3 or 4 hours.
Right. Definitely.
3 or 4 hours.
Then they added the 9, which put us to 11.
Right.
And then Live at 11 became a thing.
Right. And then they pushed the 5 to 4:30.
4:30.
Right.
Then they said, well, if we're going to do 4:30, might as well do 4.
Right.
Yeah, and then it was 4 to noon, and then they added the noon, which now puts us to 1 o'clock.
Right.
And then one of the big projects that your wife is working on is streaming. And so it's 24/7 almost.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, we are this close to 24/7 news.
Yeah. Absolutely bizarre.
Yeah, it is.
Absolutely bizarre.
So we need more people. So if you're looking to come back, Alan, we're going to need more bodies.
Look, man, were you nervous? You don't strike me as you strike me as a confident guy. When you make your decision is made. Like, was it easy to make that decision to walk away from your success here?
Yes, it was easy. It really was, because I felt that I was just time.
Yeah.
And even though, it's kind of early to walk away from something.
For sure.
I just felt like, you know what? I don't have the same, I guess, at that particular point in time, enthusiasm to do it. That the writing was taking me in pulling me away a little bit more than I wanted it to, probably. And I felt like I can't continue to do both.
Well, you could, because they kept paying you every 2 weeks.
Well, yeah, they did.
But
I have to show up. Right? That's the whole thing. I have to show up.
Yeah.
And talk about being a morning person. This is my Amy Andrews story.
Yeah.
Love Amy. I got the sense one time that Amy was just kind of like a little frustrated.
Okay.
Or just, kind of got quiet. And I says, Amy, is everything okay? And she goes, yeah. And I go, okay.
We've all heard that before.
I was like, Amy, what's going on? What's wrong? She goes, you don't like me very much, do you? I'm like, why would you say that? I go, I love you. I think you're great. She goes, well, you hardly ever talk at 5 a.m. I says, oh, Amy, I said, I'm sorry. For that first hour, I am basically still trying to wake up. I go, I am just trying to make it through that first hour. I said, have you noticed that like when 6 o'clock rolls around,
Yeah.
I kind of perk up a little bit more because I've got a ton of coffee.
Yeah.
in the house.
Oh, yeah.
I go, that first hour is just kind of rough to get through.
That's like the practice hour.
Yeah.
It sure is.
And I said, I have to focus all my energy just on getting through that 5 o'clock hour. So.
Oh, little Amy just needed a hug.
Yeah,
Right.
But
A little bit of love.
but I said, I'll try to be a little bit more conscious. Of
Yeah,
that in the
yeah,
future.
yeah.
But I go, no, Amy, I think you're great. I have nothing against you at all. I just said it's more me that 5 o'clock hour.
All right, we got to start wrapping this up because we know you're busy. But just give us a clue. What's coming next from Alan Lee? You got that third book on the way?
A third book on doing my hated thing, doing some research on certain things. But once I get that down, I'll be doing that. I've been even thinking about, you guys everybody else is inspiring people podcast. Been kicking around the idea of that.
You're pretty good at it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
So, I was on some podcasts, and it's funny how you can't get away from some things because obviously this is a clean podcast. But I was on this one podcast, and the next thing though, the F-bombs and the four-letter words were just flying. And I kept catching them. I was like, can we curse?
Are we allowed to do? Right. You're so used to T broadcast television.
I was like, can you say that when you just said? But it's the same thing. I never cursed around my kids either. Never.
that makes one of us.
My kids have never, I don't think, ever heard me say
Not
an
one
F
time.
word.
Really?
And I got that from my dad.
Yeah.
My dad never said a curse word around me. I knew he cursed,
Sure.
but he never cursed around me.
Man.
And I kind of, for some reason, in the back of my head, and my kids are now, one's obviously graduated from USC years ago, and the other one's going to graduate this semester. And now they're around you more, and they're around you in certain settings. And I still kind of like, oh, my son's right there.
Right. Yeah.
Even though I know he heard all these
Yeah.
words and all these things, I'm still kind of like, I don't want to.
Interesting.
Yeah, now, I know we're supposed to wrap it up. And that USC kid,
Yes,
he was at one point interested in film, right?
the older one.
Yeah.
Because they're both USC kids.
Yeah,
Oh, they both? Okay.
Yeah.
So the one who was studying film, is that still in the works?
He didn't go into film, which is to my chagrin. That was
Oh,
what he-
okay. I was going to say, will he adapt Ashes to Ashes or Sandstorm into the cinematic
I
masterpiece?
wouldn't trust that book. I wouldn't give it to him. But no, he's trying to do something else, and he's actually a little advertising here.
Yeah.
This is part he does with one of his other jobs that he's fun. He's
Yeah.
a DJ for this group of people that they all go around these clubs and they play music and stuff. So he enjoys that a lot.
good.
What's the
Enjoys
name
that
of
a
it?
lot. The thing with this thing is called Bad Listener. That's their sort of moniker.
Yeah.
So they go around and they play music and.
They got a
different
website. They got a
venues.
website?
Yeah, I think it is badlistener.com, I think.
There you go.
Quote me
Right.
on that.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on that. I think they're on YouTube too and all that stuff. So good for them.
Awesome. If I can give you one piece of advice for a podcast, and it took us a year and a half to figure it out.
Yeah.
Good microphones.
Oh, without a doubt.
It's all about the good microphones.
Dude,
Gotta
we were in like 6 different closets in this building
Yeah.
before we finally invaded J Tower.
Before you finally
space.
came out of the closet.
Yeah, we did, and that'll be our next
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah.
Right.
That'll be the next one.
Yeah.
We've got some interesting guests lined up for that.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
Do we really have to go? Can I have one more question?
yeah, we
Sure.
probably should let them go.
AI
I'm
and writing.
not doing anything. But
AI and writing.
Yeah.
How do you use it? Do you hate it? Because you talked about Google
do not
Maps
use
tech.
it. I do not use
Not
it.
even to like bounce ideas off of it all. It is
No.
like strictly no.
No, it's for me. It's a no.
Yeah.
It's a no. Now, if it can help me with research,
Sure.
yes.
Right.
But if I ever let AI write a portion of my, no, never. That
But
to
not
me
like
is-
that. But just to be like you talk about writer's block. Let's say like you're in chapter 2 and you're trying to figure out like, how do I get over there?
Yeah.
And then, just bounce idea, not to do the writing.
I'm old school. I will
Got
figure it out.
You will figure
I
it
will
out.
figure it out.
What are you going to do? Go for a walk? You're just going to let it sit? You're gonna,
Sometimes, when I worked in D.C., and I know Alec Derek wants to wrap this
he
up.
does. He always. It's like, where's he got to go?
To the bathroom.
His wife doesn't even like him.
When I got to know a bunch of people in D.C. in the intelligence community, a lot of them would tell me a lot of things about how to do certain things or how to look for certain things.
Yeah.
A lot of things that the intelligence community plants are on purpose, and they'll put it in, like, make sure that the news gets it. It goes like, sometimes it goes like, if you look on the newspaper, this will be there. It won't be on the cover. It won't be on the front page. But it'll be buried in the back, and it's just something that we try to get out there. It goes. Sometimes it's true, Sometimes it's misinformation.
Okay.
So
You got to know where to look and what to look for,
Right.
and then decipher all of that together.
exactly.
Yeah.
And one guy who I got to know, he worked for naval intelligence, and his wife. I says, because we were doing a story about his daughter, because I think they had lost a kid. So it was a story about loss and how the daughter was coping. So it was very brave of them to do it. And I got to know, because he was a little late getting there, so I got to know his wife. And I go, so what does your husband do? She goes, he works for naval intelligence. And she goes, oh, so cool. How's his work? She goes, I've never been to his work. I'm not allowed.
Sure.
I'm like, what do you mean you're not allowed to go to his work?
Yep.
And he finally showed up, and we got he's obviously a little standoffish, like, I don't know. And I told him what I was interested in. And he opened up about certain things. And he goes, there's this one guy who did the most damage that you could ever ask for intelligence. And there was a guy, and he said, this guy, he goes, what he did was he gave the Russians how to locate every nuclear sub we had. He goes, they were out there for just basically in the open for months because he gave the Russians the ability to find any one of our nuclear subs.
On purpose? This was like espionage, or this was a
he
mess?
did it,
Oh,
he
okay.
did it on purpose. He sold out the U.S.
Oh,
on
boy.
purpose. He goes, so they were just, if the Russians, he said, had decided to attack during that period of time, we'd have been in a little bit of trouble.
Here's the problem with like it feels like a movie,
Yeah.
but that's real life.
Yeah.
That's real life.
That's
Yeah.
real life.
Yeah.
But I think we're trained that sounds like a novel or a movie
Yeah.
where like I hear it and I'm like, oh yeah, Tom Cruise did that probably.
Sure.
somewhere.
Yeah.
But like, no, that's real life.
That's real life.
Yeah.
I'd rather not think of that. That gives me anxiety.
Sure.
And that's the whole thing. You'd be better off not thinking about
Ignorance
that
is
stuff on a
bliss.
daily, because
Yeah.
I guarantee you we have probably come close more times than you think to an incident happening in the world that could start everything. So just wake up in the morning, watch the Weatherboys, and be happy.
There we go.
As
See, I
simple
like
as
that. I like that.
Over under 55 home run Shohei Ohtani.
I say under this year because he, at some point, is probably going to have to pitch.
Okay. So they'll slow him down.
It's going to slow him down a little bit,
Alan's a big Dodgers fan. You knew this about him,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Doyers.
Yeah.
Love my
I mean,
Doyers.
there's no, like, I mean, he's got to be like historically. I mean, he's doing something that no one else has done.
Yes.
So, I mean, what I
Oh,
mean,
Ohtani- I thought you were talking about Alan Lee.
Well,
I
Alan
was
Lee
like,
as
wait,
well.
what?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I'll agree with you,
He
but
taught
just,
him everything that he knows.
Yeah, right. Sure.
Obviously.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Sure. Right.
See, I know baseball.
Right.
yeah.
Any other baseball questions?
Wait. One of you did play baseball, right? I saw one of the Weatherboys things.
Derek did great.
Right.
Yeah.
That was me.
Right, because I played baseball.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're a ball player.
Yeah.
Did you know Rob Wolchuk was a ball player?
I did not know that.
Yeah, we did a podcast with Rob, and Rob was a pretty good ball player, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, made it up like into the minors,
told
right?
you that?
He said.
Oh,
he
okay.
told us. Oh yeah, you
I
weren't
wasn't
here
there.
that
No,
day.
I was napping.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know Subway had a
Hey.
had a baseball.
Apparently, right.
Yeah, I was a ball player. I played through high school and then wrapped it up.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I
Did you
played
say-
softball
yeah.
and stuff like that.
Was it hard to say no to the scholarship offers?
Yeah, because I
was
knew.
great, yeah. You
I
knew,
knew
yeah.
that the Weatherboys was my future.
Yeah.
Understood.
Right.
Understood.
Right. Yeah. The high. I played semi-pro ball in the Caribbean, and I got to play. That's another reason. Don't get me wrong, I was already a Dodgers fan, but we got to play in exhibition games with Dusty Baker.
Oh.
Bob Welsh was there. Davey Lopes, Chris Chambliss, who played for the Atlanta Braves. So that was a lot of fun.
What position were you?
I played pitched and I played right field.
I thought
Center
you were a
field.
pitcher. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was fun. It was a lot of fun. First time I'd ever seen. I know he wasn't.
He's got, I know.
That's
I know.
okay. It's
He's-
okay.
He's
edit.
getting itchy.
You can
He's
edit
getting itchy.
all you want. Cut out what you need. First time, because now guys still in the 90s, 100s, and
Yeah.
upper 90s. It's no big deal. First time I was at the Virgin Islands, we placed this guy, and my teammates kept going, "This dude can play." And the opposing pitcher goes, "He throws hard," and I go, "Okay, how hard can a guy really throw?"
Yeah.
I had never seen a guy throw in the mid 90s before in my life, and it was touching almost upper 90s at that time, which is for that era, it's like it just doesn't happen very often. And you hear that ball
Yeah,
coming in,
whistles,
You
right?
hear it before it gets to you, and it pops that catcher's mitt. I remember the first time I saw it, I turned around back at the guys in the dugout, and I was like,
What are you going to do?
I was like, all right. And I think I just kind of like I was fortunate I got walked the first time.
There you go.
'Cause I'm like, I'm not even swinging it. I'm not going to look stupid. This is, I can't even time this.
My dad has a Frank Tanana story like that.
Yeah.
Because my dad grew up playing ball, and he was the Catholic League high school in Detroit, and he played against Frank Tanana.
Yeah.
And Tanana threw. He said, I walked up, I had 3 pitches, I turned around, I walked back, and sat down. and strikeout to Nanny. He's like, I didn't see any of the pitches.
Yeah.
There's just 3 of them. Said strike 3. It's okay. Yep.
That makes sense.
Right.
Turned around and went back to the dugout.
Right. Sounded like a strike. Yeah. I saw it. Yeah.
All right, Alan, thank you so
Hey,
much.
My
Yeah,
pleasure,
thanks,
guys.
man.
My pleasure.
You are a legit legend in this
Oh,
industry,
stop it.
a legend in this building, and so successful as an author and everything. We're glad to claim you as one of Fox's
Well,
alumni.
I appreciate it. I guess I'm still doing well when security still knows who I am.
For sure.
You know?
You walk down these halls. I mean, everybody, salespeople are coming out, giving you
Well,
hugs and stuff like that.
I used to mess with a lot of people in the building, so that was part of the thing. So
Alan Lee, thank you.
thank you guys. I appreciate the invite. Appreciate it.
All right, that'll wrap us up. We will be back next week with another episode of the Weatherboys podcast. Don't forget to check us out. We're on YouTube, on Spotify, on Fox Local, and FoxDetroit.com.
Did you get them all?
Is that the website?
Yeah, sure.
Fox Detroit. Well, because now I'm going back to Alan's era, and it was myfoxdetroit.com.
That's right.
And
Fox
if
2
not,
Detroit. I think it's Fox 2 Detroit.
See,
Isn't it? Fox, or maybe it's badlistener.com.
badlistener.com.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something like that.
All right. Thanks, everybody. See you next week.